Let me ask you something. What would change in your life if you believed with certainty that you were already successful? How would you talk? How would you walk? How would you think, move, speak, lead, serve, and give? Success doesn't start when the money shows up. Success starts when your mindset levels up. Most people are waiting for evidence before they believe. But champions, real winners, believe before the evidence shows up. That's not delusion, that's dominion. Today I want to challenge you. Act like you're already successful. Not pretend, not fake. Act, live, lead from the place where you already own the victory. Because if you can't see yourself there, you'll never get there. Success is first an identity, not an outcome. That statement may sound simple, but it carries a transformational truth that can change your life if you truly embrace it. Most people believe that success comes after the money, the recognition, the house, or the fancy job title. They think they will become successful once they achieve those things, but that mindset is completely backward. In reality, those external results are the byproducts of an internal shift. The truth is, you don't achieve success first, you become successful first, and then the results catch up. Think about this. Nothing outside of you determines who you are. Your bank account doesn't define your self-worth. Your job title doesn't confirm your value. Your current circumstances don't speak the final word about your future. What defines you is your internal agreement, what you believe about yourself, what you expect, and how you show up in the world. When you start believing that you are successful, not someday, not if everything goes right, but right now, you begin to carry yourself with a different energy. You begin to move, speak, and decide like someone who knows where they're going. You stop negotiating with your doubts and start leading with conviction. This mindset isn't about arrogance or pretending. It's about living from the identity of your higher self, the version of you that already exists in potential form. The reason this shift is so powerful is because identity drives behavior. When you truly believe something about yourself, your actions will always follow that belief. If you see yourself as someone who is disciplined, you will act accordingly. If you believe you're a leader, you'll start speaking up, taking responsibility, and guiding others. If you see yourself as a person who always follows through, you'll begin to operate with integrity, even when nobody's watching. This is how internal identity transforms into external results. Here's a powerful way to understand this concept. Imagine an actor who is preparing for the lead role in a movie. Let's say the role is that of a powerful, successful business tycoon. That actor doesn't just memorize the lines. A real professional becomes the character. They study the mannerisms, the posture, the speech patterns, the decision-making style. They inhabit the role mentally and emotionally before the camera even starts rolling. Why? Because you can't perform something convincingly that you haven't internalized. Now, let's apply that to you. What if you started inhabiting the role of the successful person you desire to be? What if you woke up tomorrow and chose to believe I am already successful and allowed that identity to shape every action, decision, and interaction? You would stop asking for permission. You would stop shrinking to fit small environments. You would stop waiting for validation. Instead, you'd walk into rooms like you belong there. You'd set higher standards. You'd protect your time and energy. You'd invest in growth instead of excuses. You would live from your future, not your past. A short example illustrates this beautifully. There was a young woman named Renee who dreamed of being a successful public speaker. But at the time, she was working in retail, had no platform, and struggled with confidence. Most people in her situation would wait for an opportunity to come, maybe get a degree, maybe try to build up to it slowly. But Renee made a decision. She told herself, I am a professional speaker. She didn't have a stage yet, but she started preparing talks every week. She practiced in the mirror, in the shower, at family dinners. She read books on communication, studied great orators, and even volunteered to speak for free at local schools and churches. She showed up to networking events as if she were already the keynote speaker. Her energy was so focused, so intentional, that within a few months, someone referred her for a paid speaking engagement and another. Today, Renee speaks on international stages, not because she got lucky, but because she believed it before she had the evidence. Her results caught up with her identity. This is not a gimmick, it's a universal principle. You must live from who you are, not who you hope to become. If you can see it, speak it, and act on it daily, the world has no choice but to respond. Your energy, your confidence, your consistency will begin to pull opportunities toward you. That's the power of identity. You don't become successful because someone gives you permission. You become successful because you decide to operate at that level, and that decision shifts everything. So stop saying, I'm trying to be successful. Eliminate that language. Say instead, I am successful, and everything I do is catching up to that truth. That mindset isn't fake, it's faith. And faith is the foundation of all transformation. When you start there, success is no longer a distant goal. It's the identity you walk in every single day. If you want to operate at a higher level in life, in business and leadership, or in impact, you must begin to behave at that level, long before the world recognizes you for it. The truth is, success is not something that just arrives one day and changes who you are. It's the result of consistent alignment between who you say you want to be and how you actually show up. Most people say they want success, but they act like they're still hoping. Hope is not a strategy. Hoping won't get you to the next level. Behavior will. Intention will. Identity expressed through consistent action will. You cannot say you want to be a high performer while producing mediocre work. You cannot say you want to lead others while avoiding tough conversations. You cannot say you want to be a millionaire and still treat your time, energy, and money the way a broke person does. There has to be integrity between your desires and your discipline, between your goals and your grind, between your ambition and your action. If you want to operate at a higher level, you must behave like you already belong there. This requires making decisions from where you want to go, not where you currently are. Too many people make decisions based on their present limitations instead of their future vision. They ask, can I afford this? Instead of asking, how would my future self invest in this? They say, I don't feel ready. Instead of asking, what would the version of me that's already winning do right now? The most powerful shift you can make is to stop thinking like the person you are and start thinking like the person you are becoming. You must behave like that version of yourself now, not later. For example, imagine you're an aspiring entrepreneur. Right now, you're just starting out. You don't have a big team. You're working from home, maybe even working a job on the side. It's tempting to think, I'm just a beginner. But that mindset will trap you in the beginning forever. Instead, ask yourself, how would a successful CEO operate? Would they miss deadlines? Would they wake up late and start work at noon? Would they say yes to every distraction? Of course not. A CEO plans, prioritizes, delegates, and leads with clarity. So even if you're not there yet, you must begin acting like that person now. Show up to your work like it's $1 million operation. Even if it's only generating a few $100s a month right now, that kind of behavior is what causes the business to grow into that identity. So let me give you a real example. A man named Chris had a dream of becoming a top real estate investor. At the time, he didn't own a single property. He was working a 9-to-5 job and just barely paying the bills. Most people in his situation would say, one day, when I have the money, I'll start acting like an investor. But Chris understood a deeper principle. He asked himself, how would I behave if I already owned 100 units? That question changed everything. He started waking up at 5 a.m. every day to study the market. He walked neighborhoods on weekends, taking notes and making connections with brokers. He dressed professionally even when visiting properties he couldn't afford yet. He built a system to analyze deals and tracked his financials like a real business, even when there was no business yet. A few months later, he found a deal that most people overlook. He was prepared, he had practiced, he had behaved like someone ready for success. He closed on that deal, then another, and eventually reached his goal of owning 100 units. Not because luck showed up, but because he did consistently with behavior that matched the level he wanted to operate on. What's important here is that Chris didn't wait for permission. He didn't wait for proof. He behaved like the version of himself he wanted to become, and the world responded accordingly. That's not magic. That's alignment. And alignment is powerful. When your habits, attitude, language, and execution are all operating at a high level, opportunities can finally trust you. People notice. Resources show up. You begin to rise not because your circumstances changed, but because your standard did. You must stop operating at the level of your circumstances and start operating at the level of your calling. That means refusing to show up late, refusing to do average work, refusing to play small. If you want to operate at the level of a leader, a top performer, a millionaire, a global influencer, then act like it, dress like it, speak like it, decide like it. Because when your behavior meets your vision, momentum is inevitable. To ask yourself this every single day: if I were already successful, already operating at the highest level of my field, how would I handle this situation? How would I respond? How would I prepare? How would I carry myself? Then do that. Not later, not after the money comes, not when someone notices you, now, because when you behave at the level you want to operate, the gap between who you are and who you're becoming begins to disappear. That's when breakthrough happens. That's when doors open. That's when your future starts arriving because you finally showed up for it. If you're serious about becoming successful, then it's not enough to just change your mindset. You must change your environment to match your expectation. It is one of the most overlooked truths about transformation. Your surroundings either support your growth or sabotage it. You cannot rise while everything around you is built to keep you comfortable at your current level. When you start acting like you're already successful, your environment, your friends, habits, space, routines must begin to shift. If it doesn't, you'll either water down your vision to fit your surroundings, or you'll stagnate trying to force success in a space that wasn't designed to hold it. Let's be clear, environment is more than just a physical space. It includes the people you talk to every day, the content you consume, the conversations you entertain, the way you spend your time, your digital spaces, your schedule, everything that surrounds your mind, energy, and focus. When you start expecting more of yourself, when you begin to walk in the belief that you are already successful, your environment must come into alignment. If your surroundings are casual, unmotivated, chaotic, and comfortable, they will resist every attempt you make to grow. This is why many people feel stuck even when they have clear goals. They're reading the books, doing the affirmations, setting the targets, but they're still trying to thrive in an environment that's built for survival. You can't soar if the room you're in only teaches you how to crawl. You can't speak vision while surrounded by people who only talk problems. And you definitely can't create something powerful when you're constantly being pulled into distractions, drama, or mediocrity. Your external environment will always influence your internal world. When you start acting like you're already successful, you begin to see that you no longer have the luxury of maintaining environments that were designed for a smaller version of you. You will begin to outgrow certain habits, conversations, and even relationships. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. There's a cost to growth, and often that cost is comfort. You will find that your circle may shrink before your vision expands. You will have to say no more often to people, invitations, distractions, and comfort zones, but that is the refining process of greatness. An important part of this shift is intentional investment. When your expectations are high, you start to invest differently. You'll spend less on entertainment and more on education. You'll trade hours of scrolling for time in masterminds or mentorship. You'll start asking, what's the return on this environment rather than just, does this feel good? That shift alone is transformational because successful people don't just consume, they cultivate. They curate what they allow into their space because they understand that their energy is too valuable to waste. Let me give you an example. There was a young man named Jordan who dreamed of becoming a highly paid software developer. He had talent, ambition, and a lot of potential, but he was stuck in an environment that was pulling him in the opposite direction. His roommates stayed up late playing video games, skipped work often, and laughed at the idea of personal growth. Whenever Jordan tried to focus, he was surrounded by noise and negativity. For a while, he told himself he could manage both. He could grind during the day and just tolerate the chaos at night. But slowly, he noticed his motivation fading. His goals felt distant. He was working hard but not gaining momentum. One day, he had enough. He made a decision that changed everything. He moved out. He started working from a quiet co-working space. He joined a coding community online, surrounded himself with ambitious peers, and spent weekends building his portfolio instead of wasting time. Within 6 months, he landed his first big client. A year later, he was making 6 figures as a freelance developer. The key wasn't just his skills. It was the shift in environment. Once his surroundings aligned with his expectations, his actions multiplied. The friction disappeared. He started thriving because he was no longer fighting to stay focused. His environment supported his success. This is what happens when you stop tolerating environments that contradict your calling. You begin to operate with clarity. You begin to protect your peace. You stop explaining your goals to people who aren't qualified to judge them. And most importantly, you start building a world around you that reflects the person you're becoming, not the person you were. So if you want success to feel normal, then your environment must reflect that normal. You need to wake up in a space that reminds you of your goals. You need to talk to people who stretch your thinking, not shrink your dreams. You need to constantly feed your mind with content that fuels you, not drains you, because ultimately, you become a product of what you're surrounded by. So if you expect greatness, create an environment that expects it too. Build a space that demands your best. Curate a circle that doesn't let you play small. And remember, your vision will only grow as fast as your environment allows. Let your surroundings be a reflection of your destiny, not your history. And if that means outgrowing some people, some places, or some patterns, do it. The future you're stepping into is far too important to let the past hold you back. The words you speak are not just sounds, they are signals. They shape your reality, mold your mindset, and determine your direction. When you start to act like you're already successful, one of the most important shifts you must make is in your language. The way you speak must reflect the level of belief you have in your vision. Most people speak from where they are. They talk about what they don't have. what's not working, and what they hope might happen if everything goes right. But when you begin to speak as if it's already done, as if the vision is already fulfilled, something powerful happens. You begin to program your mind to follow your words. This isn't about empty positivity or pretending problems don't exist. It's about anchoring your speech to your desired outcome, not your current limitation. Your words are either reinforcing your fear or building your faith. Every time you say, I'm not sure I can do this, you weaken your own authority. Every time you say, maybe one day I'll get there, you distance yourself from that goal. But when you speak with conviction, when you say this is happening, or it's only a matter of time, or I was built for this, you begin to shape a reality that matches your vision. The world doesn't just respond to what you do, it responds to what you consistently declare. Your language is a mirror of your identity. If you speak like a person who's still hoping, doubting, or trying to convince themselves, your actions will hesitate. But when you speak like someone who already owns the outcome, your energy shifts. You walk differently. You move with authority. You attract people, resources, and opportunities that match your vibration. This is not magic. It's alignment. You are getting your inner world in agreement with your outer goals. Consider this. Successful people speak in definitives. They don't say if this works. They say when this works. They don't say, I hope it happens. They say, I'm making it happen. This kind of language creates momentum. It creates clarity. It eliminates backdoors and excuses. You stop wondering if you'll make it and start working as though it's already done. That level of faith in your own words is often the very thing that pulls the future into the present. A powerful example of this principle comes from a woman named Alicia, who dreamed of launching her own wellness brand. At the time, she had no capital, no team, and no audience. Just a clear vision and a burning desire to make it real. Most people would have said, I'm trying to build a brand, or I hope to have my own business one day. But not Alicia. From day one, she spoke as if her business already existed. She didn't say, if I ever get there. She said, I'm building a global wellness brand. She told people, my company helps people restore their energy and confidence. She introduced herself not as someone who was thinking about it, but as a founder. Even though she was still making formulas in her kitchen, she talked like she was leading a Fortune 500 brand. Her speech reflected her vision. That energy was contagious. People started taking her seriously, not because she had the results, but because she carried the result in her voice. Within a year, she secured her first investor. She launched her product line. And now her brand is sold in major retail stores. Her success didn't start with a product. It started with how she spoke about herself and her mission. She spoke as if it was already done, and eventually it was. This principle is especially important when you face resistance, because the temptation in hard times is to start speaking from defeat. Nothing's working. Maybe I'm not cut out for this, or this always happens to me. But if you really believe in the success that's already yours, you must protect your language even in the struggle. Speak victory even when you feel surrounded. Speak expansion even when you feel pressure. Speak progress even when it looks like you're standing still. Your words are not a reflection of your emotions. They are a reflection of your commitment. Speaking as if it's already done doesn't mean you ignore the process. It means you respect it. You respect it enough to speak to the end from the beginning. You affirm what's coming, not what's lacking. And you keep speaking it until everything around you aligns. Your team, your clients, your audience, your family, they will all begin to follow the confidence in your voice. But that voice must be trained to speak truth, not just facts. The fact might be that you're still building, but the truth is that success is already yours. Because you've claimed it in your words, and backed it up with action. So if you want to live like a success, speak like one. Don't let doubt borrow your tongue. Speak the outcome, not the obstacle. Let your words become the first evidence of what's about to show up. And when people hear you speak, let there be no confusion about who you are and where you're going. Let them feel it. Let them see it. Because the future belongs to those who declare it with boldness before it ever arrives. 2/2. Faith is powerful, but faith alone is not enough. Belief without movement is like having a car with no gas. You're going nowhere fast. There comes a point where believing in yourself, in your future, in your vision must go beyond mental alignment and spiritual confidence. It has to show up in how you move. Because faith that moves creates momentum. This is the point where a lot of people fall short. They believe something big is possible. They visualize it, talk about it, journal about it, maybe even pray about it. But they don't take bold, decisive action to back it up. And that's where they stall. They're waiting for the world to show them a sign before they take the first step. But the sign doesn't come because they haven't moved. Faith doesn't wait for evidence, it creates it. When you act like you're already successful, you're not pretending, you're positioning. You are forcing the environment, the market, the world, and even your subconscious mind to begin recalibrating around your next level. You are no longer just hoping something good happens. You are demanding that momentum respond to your movement. You're not waiting for confirmation. You're moving in conviction. That's a different frequency entirely. People who operate like this tend to look like they're lucky from the outside. But what's really happening is acceleration, a force that activates when faith and action collide. Think about this. Faith without action is passive. It looks good on paper, but it produces nothing. But the moment you add even the smallest step of action, it becomes active faith. And active faith creates attraction. It draws the right people, opens doors, stirs creativity, and triggers events that wouldn't happen otherwise. Inaction is a closed signal. Action is an open invitation. So the question becomes, what kind of energy are you sending out? One that says, I'm thinking about it, or one that says, it's already mine and I'm moving accordingly? Let's take a real world example. There's a woman named Serena who wanted to start a luxury events company. She had no funding, no team, and no client base. What she did have was vision and unshakable belief that this was what she was called to do. But instead of waiting for perfect conditions, she took action immediately. She created a logo herself, built a simple website, and designed a sample portfolio using styled mock events. She called 5 venues and offered to do complimentary event consultations to get her foot in the door. She even hosted a free vision board workshop to build community and position herself as an expert. People around her thought she was crazy for moving so fast with nothing. But Serena wasn't working with nothing. She was working with faith, and she added action. And that combination created acceleration. Within 6 months, she landed her first paid corporate client. Within a year, she had 5 high-end weddings under her belt. Now, her company is booked months in advance with a waiting list. She didn't wait for permission. She didn't wait for someone to validate her idea. She believed and she moved. That's the secret. If you want your life to change, you can't just think differently, you must behave differently. You can't just affirm success in the morning and then move through your day like someone who's uncertain. Your actions have to scream what your words whisper. Faith is what allows you to see the invisible, but action is what allows you to build it. You must start acting in the direction of your destiny before it's visible to anyone else. Some people say, I'll act once I have more clarity. But clarity often comes through movement. You won't see the whole staircase before you start climbing. But when you take that first step, the next few steps begin to reveal themselves. Others say, what if I fail? But that's the wrong question. The better question is, what if I stay stuck here another year because I never moved. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a powerful reason to move. And if your belief is real, that reason already lives inside you. It's time to stop treating faith like a feeling and start using it as a fuel. Let it drive your decisions. Let it move your feet. Let it show up in your habits, your emails, your outreach, your discipline, your investments. Don't just believe that the door will open. Walk up to it and knock. And if it doesn't open, build a new one. That kind of energy changes things. The universe responds to those who take the first step, not because they're sure of what's coming next, but because they're certain of what they're called to create. So act like you're already successful. Walk like it. Speak like it. Work like it. Not next month, not next year, now. Move first. Let the rest catch up. Because when faith and action collide, things move faster. Doors swing open. Breakthroughs arrive early. What should have taken 10 years can happen in 2. But it all starts with one simple, radical, powerful decision. Move. And don't look back.